Hey everybody, welcome back to Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks. Happy Friday, Friday the 13th, no less, gentlemen. I'm Dave Altavilla with Hot Hardware, and I'm here with Marco Chiappetta, who's wearing some pretty fancy threads, I might add. Marco.
But you can't see it because of the. Hold on, let me move some camera action here. Hold on. Let's move the mic over. Hello.
Hello. His funny little T-shirt for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's important.
It was last month, but I will continue to wear the shirt.
You're still waving the flag. Glad
Yes.
to hear it.
Anything for the boobies.
And
You're a
who's
good
that
man,
in the
Marco.
fabulous fedora?
Yes, I am. Hello.
The ever-entertaining Paul Lilly. Guys, how you been? It's been a whirlwind, sort of crazy week. We're getting into Q4 and CES right around the corner, and oh my God, stop the world! I want to get off. How's it going?
I'm with you, man. I can't believe this month is halfway over already. And we're closing in on CES stuff. We're getting the ball rolling on that. I can't believe this year is almost done. It's just crazy.
Yes, indeed.
Paul, you gonna survive?
I hope so. I skipped lunch for this, so if you hear some grumbling, it's either my stomach or a bear attack. Just throwing that out there now.
Paul, you may snack while you chat. That's okay. If you have a little can of Pringles or something nearby, go for it.
I'm good. We're gonna make it.
All right. So let's talk about the headlines in tech around the web at Hot Hardware. Some of the features we've looked at this week for product reviews, and of course a couple of headline news items. Marco, you've been playing around with high-end, super fast, very slick monitors lately. A couple from ASUS, I do believe. Tell us what you've seen and why it's all that in a bag of Doritos.
So I have been playing with a bunch of monitors lately, and I'm actually pretty psyched about this because Dave will agree. I think Paul's actually rocking one too. For years, we were all stuck rocking 30-inch panels that with 2560 by 1600 was the highest res we've seen that we had seen in ages. But like the last year or so, we've got G-Sync displays, we've got FreeSync displays, we've got 4K displays, 5Ks on the horizon. We've got refresh rates with LCD panels that are finally getting up there nice and high. So there's some excitement in the display arena, and I think that's cool because your input devices and your monitor are what you really interact with when you're using a PC the most. And typically you keep them the longest, through upgrade cycles. So it's great to have lots of these nice monitors. And now, what ASUS has done, or ASUS, depending on how they want it pronounced at this particular point in time, I got to look at two panels recently, and they're both pretty awesome. One of them is a G-Sync panel. That one is the latest ROG Swift model number MG279Q. I'm sorry, no, that was the FreeSync. The G-Sync is the ROG Swift PG279Q, and then a FreeSync version, which is very similar, that's the MG279Q. Now, what makes both of these pretty cool is, first, they're decent size, 27, 28-inch panels. They're both IPS panels, so they use in-plane switching, so better color accuracy, way better viewing angles.
Uh-oh. I don't know what's going on, but Marco, I'm not hearing you, and you froze.
Yeah,
Paul,
I got the same thing. I see him frozen on mine.
I think we lost the Marco. Gotta love live broadcast. Oh yeah, he's definitely frozen. Thanks, Google. Appreciate it. Google Hangouts here. So I'm gonna fill in a little bit while Marco is hopefully reconnecting. So the ROG Swift series PG279Q. I'm going to share that out right now with everybody. And okay, you're looking at it here, and pretty sleek looking panel actually. Just scrolling down a little bit. Let's go back up to this shot. Actually, really nice design cues here. And the classic ASUS ROG styling, if you will. Red and flat black is kind of what they go with. Looking at some of the specs, 27-inch 100% Adobe RGB, 2560 by 1440 res, 350 nits of brightness, and 4 milliseconds gray to gray pixel response time. So, just stepping through those right there, pretty high-end panel. LED backlit display, IPS display, and what's the kicker is this is I believe 165 hertz peak max refresh rate. So that's kind of that is the hook with this panel. Instead of opting for super 4K res to game or to work, whatever you happen to be doing with your PC, the hook here is a faster response time for smoother response time, whether it be even cursor movement on the desktop. Let me stop sharing that out. And certainly while gaming as well, it really helps just general smoothness and responsiveness. Let's see if we can get Marco back in, and he can tell us, because he tested this thing. These also have this particular series, I believe, is there's two different models. There's a G-Sync enabled version. This one's G-Sync enabled, and there's also a FreeSync version from ASUS as well. And obviously that's adaptive refresh and synced with the graphics card, so that you get no tearing. You don't have to worry about setting up V-Sync to slow down your game performance, and it allows you much smoother gameplay overall. Marco, I think, is he texting me now? Hopefully we're going to get the man back.
the nice thing too about stopping short of a 4K resolution is you don't have to worry about monster graphics cards or multiple graphics cards to play games on a nice monitor. If you're stepping up to 4K, you need some serious hardware to push those pixels.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good stuff for sure. ASUS has been sort of a leader in this product for a long time now. They've sort of led with some of the high refresh rate panels for gamers specifically, and it's really nice. It's super high end IPS display. So you've got IPS, you've got super high refresh rates, kind of the best of both worlds. One of these days, we're going to have a 30-inch, 165 hertz IPS display, at 4K, and that sort of will be nirvana. But right now,
that's the holy grail.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about 8K monitors and 12K monitors.
Stuff gets expensive quick in that realm, but really today, that's the point, is that the trade-off is, do you want to go super high res 4K, and then you got to have a ton of graphics to push it if you're going to game. Certainly if you're a workstation professional, that is something that extra screen real estate's important to you, and you're not a gamer, then 4K probably makes sense. For a lot of gamers, 4K doesn't make a whole lot of sense necessarily. 2560 res is plenty, and refresh rate and response time, pixel response time specifically, is key for smooth gameplay. And when you add in G-Sync and FreeSync and the adaptive refresh rate technologies that allow the monitor to sync with the graphics card to render perfectly frame by frame with the graphics card's capabilities, you get a real nice result for gamers, for folks that need that responsive
yeah, and I think it's still a little early for 4K. I mean, there's some nice 4K monitors out there, but in general, I think if you're buying this generation, you don't have to feel bad about not going 4K just yet, because it's still going to get better within the next couple generations. Like you said, they're working on getting higher refresh rates and other features in there. So.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to something that you took a look at, Paul. The Logitech Harmony Elite. We're going to shift gears to consumer electronics. The ultimate universal remote. That's what your headline says here. And
yes. Here is the look at the remote.
Yeah. You know what though?
Go ahead. I know what you're gonna say.
In like 10 seconds, sell me a $350 remote, Paul.
Okay, not 10 seconds, but yes, it is $350.
I'm gonna try and get Marco on the line too. While you're doing
I know Marco's a fan of the Harmony line. I am too. I've used them for several generations. If there can be such a thing as a remote snob, I guess I would be it. It takes the convenience factor up to a whole new level in your home theater. I mean, if you have a complicated setup where if you're watching a movie, you need to switch inputs in your surround sound and switch inputs on your TV, or if you're playing it through your Xbox that way, you know, one click of, you know, watch movie or watch TV, it's going to switch everything over. So, and it's especially helpful if you have kids that don't know how to operate all the different inputs and, you know, several different remotes, or if you have people staying over. But even for yourself, it's a lot more convenient to hit, you know, a single button and the TV turns on, the input switches, everything loads up to where it should be, and then you just start, you know, mashing buttons. What's new this generation, here's a look at the older one compared to the new one, is they moved some of the media controls from the top down to the bottom. So if you're holding it one hand, you can access all the buttons now with your thumb. And they've also added a set of smart home controls. So if you have smart home lighting, Nest thermostat, and things like that, you can control it with these buttons down here. That's new to this generation. Now, if your remote gets low on battery or it's not handy, you can also use their mobile application on your Android or iOS device like this one, which is kind of neat. I prefer not to use my phone to control my TV. I like using the remote, but if you need to, the functionality is there. And the other new thing that they added to this one that I love is you don't need to plug it into your computer to upgrade the firmware, because they're constantly coming out with firmware updates. Now, if there's an update, it'll tell you that it's available. You hit the button to download it. It downloads to the charger, and then you stick the remote in the charger, and it uploads. I don't have to go hunt down my micro USB cable and connect it to my computer anymore to do that.
So the charger's Wi-Fi connected?
Yes. You plug it in there, and it downloads. It downloads to the charger, and then it'll update the remote for you.
Huh.
So
really,
that's a nice convenience.
$350.
It's expensive. You have to be, I don't know, home theater enthusiast to want it, or have a significant other that's constantly complaining that he or she doesn't know how to operate the TV. One of those two.
How is this thing on setup? And that's sort of always been my gripe with universal remotes. You know, they're great. You know, I'm used to, maybe it's old school, maybe it's different now. I haven't looked at one in a while, admittedly, but I'm used to going to the back of the manual and pulling up some, you know, manufacturer ID for, you know, the type of equipment that I'm trying to control with this universal remote. You know, batteries die, and then the code slips from ROM, and I'm not able to use it on that thing anymore. What's that process like now? Here's
the cool thing: if you have an electronic device that was made within the last decade, chances are it's in their database. They've got hundreds of thousands of devices in their database, you know, popular ones, obscure ones, whatever. When you're setting it up, it'll ask you the brand of your TV and the model number. You punch that in, and it takes care of the rest. It looks it up, inputs all the settings into your remote. The same for your receiver, your Xbox One or your PlayStation, whatever. Setup it is really simple, and settings are saved to the cloud as well, so you don't have to worry about if you upgrade to a new remote. Like I was going from this one to this one, it asked me if I wanted to transfer my settings over, which I just started fresh because I had some new devices anyway. But you know, setup is real easy. It recognizes a whole bunch of devices. You can program up to 15 of them into your remote and be done with it.
Nice. So Logitech definitely, you know, they've been sort of the leader, the front runner in this kind of stuff, and yes, have sort of cornered the market, I guess, in this area. The Harmony series, very well known in circles like ours, you know, on the tech web especially. Where do you think this is going? I mean, is it something that's, you know, the way I look at it is this is solving a problem today, but it's a function that frankly should be integrated tomorrow in everything. Like, why aren't we all using the same protocol, you know?
Yeah, and what they're moving towards now, I don't know really what's left in the TV remote category for them to tackle. I guess voice search would be one of them. That's not included on here. But they're trying to expand into the smart home category. Like I said, you can control some of your lighting and your Nest thermostat and things like that. So there's some headroom there if they want to continue to advance. But as far as the TV category, I really don't know where they go from here. There's not really much to complain about other than the price, which, you know, $350, it is steep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, though, if you're a home theater PC buff, home theater buff in general, and you've got, you know, other intelligent devices, you know, you've got a very equipped living room, you can definitely justify something like this. I would say the Logitech Harmony Elite. You have to be elite to justify that kind of cost, right?
Yeah. Think of it, to put it in computer geek terms, if you're spending like $150 or $200 on a nice mechanical keyboard, it's the same concept. You're paying a premium for the input device that you're going to use every time you use your TV.
Yeah, makes sense.
Justify it, great. It's awesome. If not, you know, what's going on?
You're not a salesman. You're just a tech editor.
Right? It's not my job to sell the device, but I will use it. I do love it.
All right, let's move on a little bit. And unfortunately, Paul, I'm here to tell you, I'm here to tell everybody actually on watching the webcast. We got a few live viewers too. Unfortunately, Marco, believe it or not, the bandwidth gods at his ISP are not with him today, and it's Friday the 13th, so maybe he got a stroke of bad luck, but his broadband connection in his office went down hard, and he's offline.
Poor fellow. See, with Comcast.
What's that?
You with Comcast?
Yeah, no, I'm with Comcast. I think he's with. Last I checked, he was with AT&T Uverse, but I know there may have been another ISP out there in New York, Connecticut, rather, where he's from. So, yeah, unfortunately, we're without the big guy for now. But maybe he'll join us if it comes back. He was rebooting his router and his modem, and yeah, his office situation is dark right now. So let's move on. We will. The show must go on, and we will journey on without him. But he's definitely here in spirit. Let's talk about some new technologies in the mobile space. Intel came out with their 6th generation processor, previously known by the code name Skylake, and yeah, okay, now I'm freezing a little bit. Google, don't mess with me now. So Intel came out with their 6th generation Skylake processor for desktops a few months back, and then more recently here, as we got into late Q3 into Q4, we're starting to see shipments now from major OEMs in the notebook space. And Skylake-U specifically is for ultralight notebooks. It's a 15-watt variant. It is the replacement for Broadwell-U, which is the previous generation, 5th generation Core series processor from Intel. And with it comes a whole new graphics core, as well as support for DDR4. But the initial configs we're seeing actually came in. We got a laptop in from Lenovo, the Yoga 900. And those are coming in with DDR3, but they do support DDR4 as well. The memory controller actually supports both. You do get some enhancements and tweaks to the core, to the actual core CPU cores, but the biggest boost, at least from what we were gleaning early on, was in graphics. The HD Graphics 520 is the graphics core that was on the Yoga 900 model that I tested. Specifically, I tested an Intel Core i7 6500U processor with HD 520 graphics, Intel integrated HD 520 graphics. And what's interesting about this machine is you've got a 13.3-inch machine, super light. It's 2.8 pounds. And we ran it through the benchmarks. We took a look at everything from, general CPU compute, standard compute performance, as well as gaming and graphics, and battery life. And we realized, across the board with this machine, small increments and improvements in CPU throughput, but a significant gain, 20 to 30% in graphics. And so I'm going to just share this guy out. If you've seen the Yoga line, let me share this out to everybody right now. Okay, There we go. So now you're looking at the Yoga. This is the Lenovo's Yoga 900. This is, again, a 2.8-pound Ultrabook. As you can see, it's got their watch band hidden. Hey, wait, there's Marco. He's back.
I don't know if it's going to stay back.
So hang on one second. We got to show everybody Marco. Marco, say hi.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
There he is.
Marco, I'm going to pause this discussion of Intel Skylake-U for Ultrabooks to rag on your ISP. Who is your ISP?
They're usually awesome. It's Optimum Online here in Connecticut, and it was actually their automated support that just got me back up.
Oh, really?
Unless it was just a fluke, but yeah, the automated support, reset my modem. Although I did that twice on my own, they sent a signal to my modem, and I'm back.
Well, today they suck because they blew you off our webcast, and that's not good.
How much did you guys hear what I was saying?
Oh, we heard you. You were cursing like a sailor, dude. It was awful. Everybody's offended too.
Well, how much of talking about the monitors? How far did I get into that?
Now we'll click back to the monitor. I'm freezing occasionally now too, and I'm hoping it's not. Anything on my end. I hope I'm not getting a bug next.
Go Charter.
Yeah, exactly. I got Comcast. We can pick on them next. But we were talking Skylake-U real quick in notebooks, and so I'm gonna reshare. Go back to what I was doing. Welcome back, Marco. It's good to have you with us, man.
Good to be back.
We were getting a little misty without you. So yeah, that's the Yoga 900, 2.8-pound machine. And this is a processor that goes from a baseline of 2.5 gigahertz, that's the base clock, to a turbo boost of 3 gigahertz. And but actually, what we noticed, let me see if I can scroll down. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see this pretty well on the screen, but hopefully you guys can. I've magnified it a little bit for the share on the webcast. What happens with this new technology is just super clock gating, super fine-grained clock gating, and at idle, it's actually idling just under 500 megahertz. As you can see, I've got Cinebench fired up there. There's no workload in the CPU in the top shot. In the bottom shot, right here, it's full load, 100% CPU utilization. We're turboed up to 2.95 gigahertz, roughly 3 gigahertz, and so this thing just downclocks to nothing, and then turbos up to 3 gigahertz. So really nice dynamic clock gating. And let me just bang through to some of the benchmarks very quickly. So here's Cinebench, and that top bar is Skylake-U. And Cinebench, specifically the gold bar is your graphics throughput, specifically rating OpenGL performance versus previous generation laptops, as you can see underneath it. And then 3.41, actually CPU performance, is the score of 3.41 in the CPU test. So as you can see, measurable gains. In this test, we didn't see quite the graphics gain. We saw much more of a significant CPU gain for Skylake-U. But when you look at FutureMark, 3DMark CloudGate, significant gain in graphics performance here, and that's to the tune of, like I said before, about 20% or so in this test. And we actually did some further game testing with a very low-end game. Obviously, this is an Ultrabook. It's a 2.8-pound laptop. It's not a gaming laptop. So we throw Far Cry 2 at it, which is an older title. It's DX10, but it's still got some pretty good visuals. I mean, it's a first-person shooter, and it's not bad, right? So here you are at 1280 by 720 with no AA enabled, but high-quality image quality settings, and you're pushing 46 frames per second on this Ultrabook. It's actually got, with Intel integrated graphics, that kind of horsepower. And as you can see, versus even a discrete, that next bar down underneath it, there's an older Radeon HD 7570M mobile graphics discrete solution underneath it that's only able to eke out 37 frames per second in that test. And then all the other integrated Intel solutions underneath that. So Skylake looking good. I'll stop sharing that, and I'm going to just click to the battery life test. We're still testing best case on battery life, but we did test Battery Eater Pro, which is our the way we go after just banging on the laptop and hitting it with a heavy load, and testing sort of worst case when you're exercising the CPU, when you're exercising memory. It even hits the hard drive a little bit. It actually came in at the top quadrant of our testing, and actually, right up there with some of the best, most power efficient laptops we've tested. Other laptops like the Yoga 3 Pro, for example, came in a little bit better than it. Those were like Core M chips. I think we're going to see when we get done. Ray's working on this right now, the full review. When we get done with full testing and on battery life, and we look at things like light duty web browsing, which is another test we do, you're going to see this thing top the charts. And so Intel has brought what looks like a 5 to 10% CPU gain, depending on the application, and a 20 to 30% GPU graphics gain for no hit in battery life, and actually slightly improved battery life. So good stuff. I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance to look at any Skylake-U notebooks yet. You guys?
I have. I should have pulled it out for this. I have a Skylake Core M-based HP Spectra X2 here, which I just got yesterday. I had to charge it up. It wasn't turning on last night, but that is Skylake, and I've played with a bunch of other machines, and it definitely ideal for the mobile form factor.
Yeah. It seemed like Skylake, although we get these mid-range desktop chips first sometimes from Intel. It seemed to us like the architecture was really going to shine best in mobile platforms and notebooks. Core M is the not quite it's the lower power version of Skylake, even further down the stack, right?
Yeah, it's the same architecture, but they're in much smaller TDPs. So the Spectra X2 has a completely fanless 4.5 watt variant, and so I haven't confirmed this. I was briefed, but I literally just got it last night. I have to verify the test, but it looks like Core M, it's going to compete very well with basic and like short bursty workloads, because the CPU can turbo up to like just as high frequencies as a regular chip, finish a workload, and then turbo back down. So for small workloads, like just tooling around the desktop browsing, it should be very, very good. It can't stay sustained at high clocks on all cores and maintain that power envelope. So like Cinebench, it won't compete as well versus a true Core i processor. But for standard workloads like email, work in an office, stuff like that, it's going to be pretty awesome and completely fanless and low power, so really long battery life. So we should have more information on that very soon.
One of our contacts at Intel, and this is something else, and we'll wrap up on this, was sort of poking at us the other day in terms of some of the standardized testing we do, which, frankly, to update the benchmark suite is not an easy task, because you have lots of a big database of reference data that you've got to update from lots of different machines, and so it takes some time. But he was poking at us about measuring responsiveness of machines, and by that he meant a little bit of what I was speaking about before with the dynamic clock gating of Skylake-U, and being able to turbo down to very low frequency, low speeds, low clock speeds to keep power down, and then turbo up hard to meet a demanding workload that comes into the processor. Skylake-U and Skylake in general has, and Marco, maybe you can delve into this a little bit, has a new technology for clock gating that allows the processor in Windows 10 specifically to have more intelligence and more control, right?
Sort of. So it's not just Windows 10. It requires software support to work. It's Intel SpeedShift technology. So what this contact was saying is you need to test responsiveness with SpeedShift enabled. What's not people don't understand is, first of all, you need this latest build of Windows that just hit, the 10.586 Threshold 2 update. You also need to enable some registry settings. You need to have a proper updated UEFI that enables it, and then SpeedShift works. So it's not like we screwed up. The stuff to do this testing is not completely public yet. It's rolling out right now. But I digress. So what SpeedShift does is on virtually every other CPU platform, when a CPU goes into a low power P state, the OS is controlling those commands. So it takes longer for the CPU to receive the command, drop to a different P state, or come out of a P state because there's communication going on with the OS. SpeedShift handles all of that in hardware. So it's much faster switches in and out of P states, which results in more responsiveness. You don't end up with ultimately a faster CPU because it's still clocking to the same points, but it can boost and shut down and rest and sleep faster than other CPUs can, which results in, you know, a speedier experience.
Right, right. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that when it rolls out as an update, as a standard update. Right now, you have to be on the fast ring, right, with Microsoft to get that.
I think the ISOs just hit MSDN, so it is. I think it's official now. If you want to get it, you can get the ISOs and update now. I'm pretty sure.
Cool. Cool. Hey, so we moved off of your displays pretty quick because you were the guy that looked at them, and the guy that looked at them was disconnected, unfortunately. Yeah. I chimed in a little bit about high refresh rates and the quality of the panels versus a 4K panel now that, 4K displays these days that are only maxing out at 60 hertz for the most part. Anything else to share there? Any gem of wisdom that we missed while you were gone?
So I'm not sure how much you guys heard what I was saying. So before I continue, can I just ask you a quick question, Dave? I have the live stream open because we have a bunch of viewers, and I was checking for comments, and comments are disabled on the video. Is that something we could change live or no?
Let me poke around. I can certainly try that.
All right. So you check for that, and I'll go back to the monitors. So So the real crux of these displays is that they come dangerously close to hitting that sweet spot of hitting all the points of what you'd want in a gaming display. They have IPS panels for better viewing angles and better color reproduction. They have those high refresh rates. The FreeSync version, the MG279Q, can go up to 144 hertz. The G-Sync, the PG279Q, can go to 165 hertz with the right NVIDIA graphics card. They're all around just real high quality displays, but you're forced to make that decision. Do you want that tight pixel density of a 4K display, but the lower refresh rate? I think the fastest I've seen is 75 hertz, or a 75 hertz is on the way. I don't quite remember. Or you can get this nice 1440p resolution, which is still pretty tight in a 27-inch display, and have that nice, smooth, buttery, high refresh rate. And I don't think people. It's one of those things that you need to even experience that high refresh rate on the desktop. It makes everything from Windows animations to mouse movements to window movements smoother, and it's noticeably smoother. It's completely different versus 60 hertz. So I'm torn on how I'm going to go. I have access to both kinds of displays, and I'm really toying with the idea of moving the 4K display out and one of these in, because I really just like how smooth everything feels with that high refresh rate.
It's really that it's that noticeable. So going from, for example, right now I'm running a 60 hertz 30-inch Dell panel that absolutely is beautiful to me. It's my workhorse. It does great for gaming. It's 2560 by 1600 res. And I got no problem with it. You're telling me if I fired up a 165 hertz or 144 hertz display, I'm never going to want to go back.
So you, with a 60 hertz and only having to give up some pixels, I would bet money you would choose one of these displays. It's a stark difference, and then it's also just more responsive in games because the lag involved with the lower refresh rate is gone, unless you play with VSync disabled and you don't mind the tearing. But yeah, I think you would most likely want to stick with one of these displays versus what you have. You'd give up those few vertical pixels.
Wow.
But again, it's night and day noticeable. It's not night and day, oh, I need that, because obviously everybody can get by in 60 hertz. Just everybody's doing it.
Right.
I don't see lots of complaints online about, I wish my mouse cursor moved smoother on the desktop. But when you experience it, it's one of those things that's clearly better.
Right. Right. Huh. Cool. Well, we're gonna shift gears to something that's supposed to be better as well. And you're back on the hot seat because you left for a while. Sorry.
Okay. No problem.
Why don't you tell us about the guys at Rivet Networks who have risen like a phoenix from the ashes yet again, right? Or
well, they never really went away.
Yeah, it's true. And by the way, Marco, I'm trying to look at what you talked about relative to the live stream.
Right.
I'm not seeing the option. I do have a Q&A open, a Q&A panel opened on Google Hangouts, so
okay.
I don't know if that helps. But
all right, I was just monitoring to see if any comments came in live because we had like 10 viewers. But I'll close that window now. So back to
leave it open. I don't know.
Well, I'm sucking bandwidth because the video is playing also live. So let me kill it. Yeah, but back to Rivet and the killer network stuff. So yeah, we conducted a Q&A with the CEO from Rivet Networks with Michael Cubbage to discuss the killer NICs. Now the company has two recently released offerings, a new wireless one and a new wired offering, which is, it's not an add-in card any longer. They're typically incorporated onto gaming targeted motherboards, like the Gigabyte Z170 G1 Gaming we recently looked at has integrated killer NIC. Lots of MSI boards, lots of companies, even Alienware notebooks now I think are offering it, and Alienware desktops have it. So a number of gamer-centric companies feature integrated killer technology on the network controllers. Now, way back in the day, let me show you how much of a hardware hoarder I am. This is the original killer NIC. So this is the first one, PCI bus on here, this giant K killer heatsink on top of, I think it was a Xilinx PGA under there. It wasn't even a custom ASIC. Back in the day, killer networking hardware was all about lowering pings as much as possible. Now, it's not just about lowering pings. They don't replace the Windows networking stack any longer. But it's about maximizing bandwidth and maximizing the use of bandwidth, and on the wireless device, maximizing range and bandwidth through the use of amplifiers and more tuned software. So it's the kind of tech where lots of people don't understand exactly what it's doing or how it works. So we figured we'd talk to Rivet and get some insight. Now, the history of the company, Bigfoot was on its own at one point when they released the add-in cards. I am going to kill who keeps trying to call. Let me leave the phone for it. Then Qualcomm actually gobbled them up, and then the company started using Qualcomm ASICs, Qualcomm NICs with their software, and now they're back out on their own, continue to use Qualcomm hardware, but they're back out on their own and selling to motherboard companies and integrating the tech into existing pieces of hardware. So through the course of the interview, you'll learn about their double shot technology, how they feel they're innovating in the gaming space on the network side, where virtually no other company is doing that. The network controllers are the kind of thing where it's really mature tech, so most of them work well, but are there tiny tweaks you can do for gaming? And Rivet thinks so, and people that use their hardware like it. I've used it. I like it. I know that the wireless tech does actually work. You get better range than other NICs at this time. So really interesting interview. You might actually learn something if you come by and read it.
Very cool. Yeah, what we struggle with this technology is measuring it properly, right? I mean, it's something that's tangible, when you're using it real time, during a game or what have you. It's something that that's observable in terms of fewer hiccups and better ping times and latency improvements. But measuring it and showing it is not the easiest task, and that's one of the things we struggle with in what we do. What do you think? Is there a setup we could configure that would allow us to show this thing and what it can do? Or
well, yeah, it's so like I said, it's not just about ping time anymore. That's you're kind of, once the packet leaves your PC, you're at the mercy of the web. Yeah. So that might show much smaller differences, but what's easy to show, so with two things that are really easy to show, is with their software you can prioritize apps. So let's say you want a torrent to be downloading while you're gaming, right? If you don't have any kind of controls over that, it could completely just, your ping will shoot way up. If the torrent's coming down at a really high rate, you can't. It'll just suck up all your bandwidth, and the game experience will stink. Whereas with their software, you can say, okay, prioritize this. It will automatically prioritize gaming, but you can say, all right, this app goes in the background, gets much limited control, and then you can still game. Your ping will stay the same. Your game experience will still be good while you can download. The other thing is their wireless controller, because it features integrated amplifiers, and I saw this live at one point. You can just test bandwidth at the same distance versus another NIC, and I don't know what the number. 90% of the time, it will have better bandwidth than just a regular standalone, mainstream controller. So that kind of stuff you can show. Plus, I don't know. The other argument for me, like, let's say there was really minimal differences. So in the bandwidth control and the wireless, there's tangible differences you'll notice. But even if there was minimal differences, gamers are the kind of people and enthusiasts that 1%, that little bit is worth it. And if this company is one of the few that's, we've got companies optimizing graphics, we got companies optimizing storage, CPUs, even audio. Why not have a gamer-centric company that generally trying to help gamers with networking technology? So it's kind of weird. They get a bad rap in that regard, but it's cool that someone's innovating on the gaming side of the network space. Yeah.
So built-in amplifiers in the wireless NIC, I wasn't aware of that. So they literally will pick up the signal, amplify it. Hopefully it's not full of noise, but they've got amplifiers on the NIC, which is not standard for most wireless NICs, obviously.
If I'm remembering correctly, there's amplifiers on both input and output side. Plus, the one thing I didn't mention is there's MU MIMO support. So if you have a router that supports MU MIMO, you can get higher bandwidth when multiple devices are connected on the router. So yeah, it's in terms of their latest, it's the 1535 AC is the name of their wireless NIC. I think Alienware is putting it in their notebooks, and MSI is also, are offering it as an option. But yeah, it's basically a highly optimized wireless AC controller to get you max bandwidth at longer distances for gaming, and not just for gaming. There's other benefits, but there's mostly gaming notebooks that have it.
Very cool. Well, let's move on, and we'll keep moving down the list here. We looked at some other mobile stuff this week. You guys, let me know what you think about this bad boy. I was impressed with it, and actually, Josh Gulick took a look at this for us. Good old Josh took a look at the Motorola Droid Turbo 2. And also the Max 2, but I think what's interesting here, the Max 2 is sort of a mainstream lower end phone, a little bit less expensive. The Turbo 2 is the second coming of the Droid Turbo, and it is absolutely dialed up. What's unique about it, what Motorola came out with right away that was, grabbed some limelight, sort of unique, was the fact that they're claiming a shatterproof display. And Marco, you were at an event in New York where I've got a fly in the office. This is really annoying. Gotta love the live stream. Even flies enjoy it. But guys in New York, the reps in New York at the Motorola event were actually dropping this thing from about 6 feet, 7 feet up on concrete, and not even twitching. They didn't have a problem with it and dropped it, a couple times, and the screen does not break. And the way they do this is with a couple of different lamination processes. They've got a flexible display underneath, right? Maybe you can explain that, because I'm a little bit fuzzy on that, but it's a very different display, right?
So yeah, they did multiple things. So there is it adds a little thickness, but there is a hard, flat metal plate behind the display. There's an actual flexible display, so when it is hit, the actual display is less likely to crack. And then there's multiple glass layers and digitizers. So even if one digitizer breaks, you'll still have touch response. So the combination of the rigid backing, the flexible display, and multiple layers on top of that adds enough strength to really resist breakage. So during the demos, the dude was literally dropping it onto cinder blocks from about 5.5, 6 feet multiple times face down, and that's kind of worst case scenario. Cinder blocks, they're not perfectly flat, so when you have those tiny little spikes where it could really focus all the energy on one point, that's when stuff will break. They say shatterproof. I would hazard a guess you can break them if you throw it hard enough and hit it just right. But if it slides out of your pocket, or if you just drops out of your hand while it's on your ear, it's least likely to shatter versus other smartphones, I think.
Yeah. I just got through sharing it out. It's actually very interesting. We had Josh test it, which is not something we like to do too often with units, test units, eval units that we get in here. But we actually did have Josh drop this sucker, and actually, as he put it, put a little English on it too. And as you can see, there's a couple of pretty good bites in the edges and the bezel of this device. Here's the display. That's a solid, right there. You can see, you probably see my cursor. That's a solid, hard corner drop right there. You can see a nice gouge in the edge of the display, you know, the paint, the finish, but the glass itself was totally fine. And he dropped it directly on the glass. But, you know, the first thing you think about when you hear about a drop test like this is, okay, how you dropping it, right? You're dropping it on concrete. Are you guys seeing this? Okay, yeah. There we go. Yeah. Sorry about that. Now I'm presenting to everybody. So there's the corner right there that was scuffed up pretty bad. But the first thing you think about when this thing's, you know, when you do a drop test is how you're dropping it. You're dropping it just right. So Josh dropped this thing flat on the display. Josh dropped it on the corner, which I think is probably the worst, right? The top corner here, or any edge where that glass has to make a bend and really, you know, is shaped. That's where all the pressure can be, and where you know, in a small area, a lot of impact can come in too. And this thing just no problem. It actually is, for all intents and purposes, shatterproof. And so I wondered, you know, it always boggled my mind that they couldn't figure out how to make that happen, make that a reality, until now. And Motorola did it. Now, I don't know how much it adds to the phone. It's a Verizon-only phone, and unlocked, well, not unlocked, it's Verizon-only, but off contract, excuse me, it's $600 or something like that, which is not out of line with other premium flagship smartphones off contract. Or you can pay something like Verizon's little deal now is a monthly, I think it's $24 a month is the way they do it. That's the bummer about this phone, is that it's only in Verizon right now. I'm hoping Motorola will bring out, you would think they would bring out a variant of this phone for other carriers as well. But the phone may be probably one of the most sleeper products to hit. I think it's going to take off, so maybe it won't be so sleeper. But right now, it's kind of, I mean, it didn't get a ton of buzz. It did, you know, with respect to the shatterproof display. But this thing is dialed. It's got a Qualcomm Snapdragon 810. So this is hopefully the revised, I'm sure it is since it's such a new device, the revised version of the 810. So it's the latest, fastest Qualcomm Snapdragon processor on the market right now. Adreno 430 graphics at 600 megahertz. We know that 430 core in graphics is one of the fastest, short of maybe Apple's A9 and the iPhone 6s. One of the fastest graphics cores. It's got 3 gig of RAM. You know, we've seen 4 gig of RAM put-ups. LG's V10 came in. That's got 4 gig of RAM, but a lower-end processor, Snapdragon 808 there. 32 or 64 gig micro SD card slot with up to 2 terabytes of expansion. The thing is really dialed in. It's got Lollipop, 5.1.1 Lollipop, AMOLED display, 5.4 inch, which I think is kind of sweet spot. 2560 by 1440, 540 ppi with shatter shield, and the battery is a stout 3760 milliamp hour battery. With the Snapdragon 810 on board, the thing actually, it was interesting. We did a battery life test on it. Battery life with this device is actually pretty impressive. I'm pulling it up right now. With the 810 on board, you kind of get, well, it's got a big battery. So, but with the 810 on board, you kind of get the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds. When you push that processor hard, it's going to suck juice. So, web browsing, our light duty test, where the processor can chill out and, you know, it's in lower power mode. The thing scored the best battery test we've taken yet on a phone. Outscored the Galaxy Note 5 and the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus with those big batteries and those big phones. And 714 minutes to be exact. I don't know how many hours it is off the top of my head, but it's a long time. And then when we went to Antutu, which is a stress test, a worst case test, it actually came in dead last. So, you know, if you're a heavy user you're doing a lot of heavy crunching. I think video was not in that classification. I think that's more of a mid-tier usage or stress on the CPU. But if you're a heavy-duty user, you might burn up the battery quicker. But standard sort of every day in and out of the pocket, browsing the web, checking email, making phone calls, this thing's going to last a long time. So great battery life, great performance, unbreakable screen, nice high-res display. I wish it was AMOLED underneath there. I think it's IPS, but I don't know. Pretty good phone. What do you guys think?
I think it was an OLED display, if I'm remembering correctly.
Is it an OLED?
I think so. I'm 90% certain it was OLED. So
hang on, it's definitely a nice phone. I misspoke. Absolutely. It is absolutely AMOLED, and so I haven't seen it in person myself. Marco, you did. If it's OLED, then bang, it hit all the check boxes for me. OLED displays, in my opinion, are the best. They have the highest brightness, best contrast, best saturation. Period. I think Samsung's killed it with AMOLED for so long. This thing's got an AMOLED display too. I don't know what else it needs. It's pretty perfect in my opinion. It's kind of a little bit bulky, but
Marco, do you held one of these in your hand?
Yeah, it actually is AMOLED. I'm looking at it here.
Yeah.
Turbo 2. It's a 5.4 AMOLED 2560 by 1440. And I held the phones. I was at the event. It's really nice phone. It's really a beautiful phone.
So it's not overly bulky? Because I know the first thing we do when we go and get a nice, pretty phone that's super thin is you slap on a case, and it's like, So
yeah. So with this guy, it's not as sleek as, say, the latest Galaxies out of the box, but you don't really have to slap a case on if you think about it. It's shatterproof, you know.
Yeah. No, it's a compelling device, and I hope Motorola brings a variant to other networks, because other folks that aren't on Verizon need to have access to it. I think it's one of the best phones of this year so far from what I've seen. I don't know, maybe I'm gushing too much, but I really like it.
No, it's nice, real nice phone.
Marco, you're all about the Windows phone, so we won't. We know you want a Lumia.
As soon as I can buy one. I don't know what Microsoft's waiting for. I think the 950, the small one, hits AT&T on the 20th, if I remember correctly, and nobody's selling the 950 XL yet. Well, I don't think they don't have a carrier lined up, so I think it'll only be available through the Microsoft Store.
Microsoft's PR agency promised us one for review, so maybe you'll get one yet.
I'm putting out the vibe because I definitely want it, and I can't afford it. So
let's wrap up on a couple of light notes in the news. Fallout 4 is all the buzz, and then we'll talk about a little bit of smack talk that Apple CEO Tim Cook was dishing out as well. But let's talk about Fallout 4 real quick. Have you guys gotten a look at that thing? One thing I will say, just to sort of tee it up, is that in a long time, we have not seen the kind of buzz, the kind of readership buzz on this game title that we have seen with Fallout 4. We've posted a couple of things and dropped them into our Facebook page, and people come out of the woodwork for this title. I mean, there is an unbelievable following, very passionate too, very vocal. What do you guys think? It's certainly a AAA title of the season, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I think it did $750 million already since it launched. So obviously, massively popular, huge title. I am going to take a ton of flack for this, but it's not my cup of tea. It requires too much thinking, too much work. Exploring, wide expanses doesn't seem like all that much fun to me. I probably won't play very much.
Now, just to give people some perspective there, Marco's favorite guilty pleasure is knocking off a few thousand zombies in Left 4 Dead just on spur of the moment. He needs fast twitch, in and out, not a lot of setup, not a lot of brain activity, just go slaughter stuff, right?
Yes, I want to get in, I want to murder, death, kill, I want to get out. That's it, no thinking. And if you do that long enough in an old game like Left 4 Dead 2, you get so good at it that if you're in a bad mood, you can mess with other players and just be a big a-hole. You could do lots of other fun stuff. Sometimes when I play, I'll go in with the goal of being first place in every category at the end. So that means just running ahead of everybody, getting all the kills, stealing all the pipe bombs and bile, and just generally being the kind of player people hate. But, you know, when you're good, you can do stuff like that.
He was a quiet man. He played a lot of Left 4 Dead 2, and then one day he snapped.
So if you get matched up with Marco, drop the game, is what he's saying.
No, because
drop out.
If you get matched up with me, stay next to me. Stay next to me, and you will live.
Paul, have you checked out Fallout 4 yet?
No, I kind of feel like I'm on an island with this one because, like you said, there's a lot of buzz with the Fallout series. I've played a little bit of the first game, but otherwise, I don't have a lot of Fallout experience at all.
Well, yeah, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I'll tell you, I actually fired it up. And believe me, and Marco, Paul, I'm sure you guys are in the same boat. I don't get any time to game anymore. I just don't have the hours in the schedule to do it. And it's unfortunate because we have a lot of great gaming gear. We do a lot of testing, and you know that's part of the fun too. But gaming is fun. God dang it. And I took some time because I felt like I needed to pick my head up and learn what this game was about. I took some time to fire it up. And what immediately became clear to me is how immersive the storyline is, and how immersive the character portrayal is, and actually there's a fair amount of humor, left and right, just sort of interesting, funny humor that comes into play, and it's the poster child for sure of good game development 101. We've said this for a while. You know, you can throw glitzy graphics at folks all day long that looks great, and you know, hey, you can sit there and marvel at the eye candy, and you know, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a fun gaming experience. I mean, Left 4 Dead 2, Marco, obviously to use an example, is not a killer graphics engine at all, but you have a lot of fun. It's fast twitch. This does it with an immersive storyline, very well told storyline, very well scripted interaction, good AI. So your the people around you, the other characters around you rather in the game have good AI, have good interaction with you, artificial intelligence, and so absolutely. It is no surprise to me because I immediately was pulled in once I fired up this game, and it captured me like right away. Like the opening scene was enough to like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this, you know, like right away. And so, you know, it just blows me away that, you know, well, it's not. I guess it's not surprising either. A lot of game companies go with the great, you know, game engine, some good visuals and some fun, you know, throw a couple of BFGs in there and let people go around and slug it out with some cool guns and weaponry and all that stuff. This is a role-playing game. You need to be cerebral right away, but it's an action role-playing game, and it really just, you know, it typifies what I think game developers need to do more of, which is work on engaging doing more than just engaging the player with visuals, you know, with a big gun, with some glitzy graphics. You know, bring the player in with interaction, with engagement, and I think Bethesda, you know, they knocked the cover off the ball with this thing. They certainly have in previous versions. This thing's getting a ton of play. A lot of folks very passionate about it on our site, and I can see why. It's an impressive, fun little game. I may kill a few hours on it. I'm not sure. I don't know if I have any to kill, but we'll see.
I'm totally not dissing the game. I'm just explaining a flaw in my own brain. It's too much thinking for me. The game is obviously cool, and there's tons of passion behind this game. And in huge age ranges, I have guys from the gym that are my age and older that are dying to play, and I have nephews that are super young that are dying to play. So it's definitely tons and tons of buzz and a huge following behind it. It's my feeble little brain that just I can't fathom it all. I need something simpler.
Yeah. Paul, will you give it a chance?
Oh, I'd love to, but then, you know, the next day I'd have you and Marco both emailing me. How's that review coming? When are you guys going to be done with this? When are you going to be done with that? So.
Yeah, exactly. When's the next article coming, man?
No rest for the wicked, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, so video games aren't on the roadmap for me right now.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, let's move on real quick, and cheers to everybody that got Fallout 4 this week. Good luck killing those hours this weekend. Enjoy it. The cool months are coming up, and there'll be a lot of indoor time, so enjoy your Fallout 4. We will too. We'll try and get into that game. I want to figure out a way to benchmark it a little bit easier than Fraps. Maybe we can do that, because certainly it needs to be incorporated. It's such a popular title. Maybe we can incorporate it in our test suite. But let's talk about what Tim Cook decided he was going to spout off today, or I should say this week rather, in the news. Apple CEO Tim Cook says PCs are dead. And by that, I think he meant the new iPad Pro and hybrid 2-in-1s. What he said was, let me pull up the quote. It was more than just PCs are dead. It was, let's see. He basically said, you know, with 2-in-1s, why would you buy a PC? He said, I think if you're looking at a PC, why would you buy a PC anymore? No, really, why would you buy one? And he basically was speaking to the fact that the iPad Pro and your phone can get the job done for 99% of the people out there, which is an interesting, bold statement. I know he was taking a shot at PCs at the Wintel ecosystem, if you will, but indirectly, what he didn't pay attention to was he was basically taking a shot at Macs too, at other devices, by sort of taking that notion of, you know, why would you buy a PC when you have this magnificent detachable 2-in-1 tablet that turns into a notebook with a attachable keyboard and your phone? He didn't think that one through, so I think he was a little misguided there. But what do you guys think? The whole notion of this thing just makes our hackles stand up, I'm sure.
Yeah, the whole why would you buy a PC thing is ridiculous. First of all, a 2-in-1 is a PC. If you ask me, it can go into a laptop mode. It's a PC. It doesn't matter what chips it's running or what software is in there. It's a personal computer. That's what it is. The other thing is he can say whatever he wants, but his latest product that everyone's talking about is as close to Microsoft's vision of a PC as Apple could get without making a Surface. There's still, 350 million PCs sold every year. I wish I could create something that I could sell 350 million of. And for anybody, you know, if work for you, and I'm not, so, you know, it would be great if I had a job like that. If work for you is checking email and working in some Word docs, you don't need a powerful PC. Of course not. You could get by with a small tablet with a keyboard attached, i.e. another type of PC, and you don't need some kind of monster desktop or a really powerful notebook. But as soon as you need to do anything that requires some compute performance, or you want a cutting-edge game like Fallout 4, you need to edit a video, which we do all the time, you need to work in a giant spreadsheet, maybe edit some photos, you need a PC to get real work done. And then, you know, you kind of need a PC to create these little toy devices too, because guess what they built the iPad on? You know, with PCs, we did all the modeling to build that thing and make the chips inside of it. So don't fool yourself with that either. Yeah, it's just something that CEOs say when their product isn't the one getting all the buzz right now. Same way Ballmer poo-pooed the iPhone when that came out, and look how huge it was. You have Cook poo-pooing the new Surface stuff because everybody seems to like it.
You know, and let me just pile on a little bit here, and then we gotta get Paul's 2 cents on this this gem of brevity from Mr. Cook. He goes on. He says, Cook goes on to talk about, this is from our article that Brandon wrote for us here. Cook goes on to talk about how the iPad Pro will likely cannibalize desktop and notebook sales, adding that users will start using it and conclude they no longer need to use anything else other than their phones, coupled with a $169 keyboard and a $99 pencil. Brandon goes on to add. What's ironic to me here is that there's a very different aspect of the iPad Pro that is very different than what Microsoft is offering with the Surface Pro 4. You're talking about 2-in-1 detachable tablet, right? And the iPad Pro runs iOS. Surface Pro 4 runs a full desktop OS, the same OS that you run on a notebook, that you run on a desktop PC, and you can run all the same apps. And there's a very definite, you know, delineation line between apps on the iPad Pro and Mac OS applications. And so, I'm sorry, it's ironic that he's taking shots, and he's talking about how it could cannibalize. Well, he didn't use those words; those were Brandon's words. But he's basically said that when he said they'd conclude they don't need anything else. It's ironic because that's the one chink in their armor right now, and it's one that Microsoft saw was an issue when they came out with Windows RT. When you came out with this reduced functionality, reduced tablet or handheld device OS, or at least a platform that's not completely 100% cross-compatible. Microsoft has a much better story with that today. Apple does not, and for him to take that shot is like, dude, you really shouldn't go there, because Apple's led the charge for a long time. Yeah, and what's interesting now is they seem to be following a little bit when you look at Surface Pro 4 and Surface Pro 3 before that, and now magically the iPad Pro shows up with what they call a pencil. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's drinking his own Kool-Aid. I mean, if the iPad Pro was going to kill off the traditional PC market, the iPad would have done it already, or at least done it to an extent. I mean, you're talking about a bigger iPad, with the stylus. It's still the same mobile operating system. And don't forget, he said the next day, too, that he called out the Surface Book specifically, Microsoft's new Surface Book, and said it's a product that tries too hard to do too much. I think the counter to that is the iPad Pro is a product that doesn't try hard enough to do enough. I mean, you're talking about it's still, like you pointed out, running iOS, a mobile operating system. It's not going to cannibalize the traditional PC market. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
If I can throw one thing out there, because
the market does go that way, I think you have to credit Microsoft, because they're the ones that are pushing the true 2-in-1 devices that, the Surface Pro, they're pitching as a tablet that can replace your notebook, and I think that's true.
Yeah. So just the one thing, anytime you talk Apple, Microsoft, you get fanboys on both sides come out of the woodwork, and it's been that way for a long time. Yeah. But if you, and I know you guys know I'm a little bit of a Microsoftie, but if you step back and you look at the recent releases from both companies, who came first and who innovated, right? Look at Surface Book, look at Surface, look at the styluses with the erasers, look at the whole package, and then, it's clear to me that Microsoft's vision is grander. You have this one platform, you have more powerful hardware, you have a more capable OS, you have more features at similar price points if you consider iPad Pro versus Surface. Even the stylus has more features on the Windows side. And then you go to iPad Pro, there's not a single thing about iPad Pro that I would choose over one of the Surface devices, except, and this may change because once you have this huge install base, the malware comes, which we're seeing in the mobile space now, is the security of iOS, not having to worry about the ransomware and malware, stuff like that. That's one angle I can see where some companies and some users just don't want to have to deal with Windows stuff. But in almost every other regard, Microsoft is the innovator and it has the bigger vision and the more capable stuff. At this, in my opinion, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think I am.
I don't think you're crazy. I mean, I guess what people should know when they come by Hot Hardware and when they're listening to our show here is that we are absolutely brand agnostic, obnoxious too. We're absolutely brand agnostic. We are tech fans. And so when we see something that's superior, when we see whether it be an ecosystem for a device or a device itself in terms of features and performance, we are pro that. Whatever it is, whatever brand is behind it. And Apple unquestionably has blazed the trail in mobile device technology, certainly in the handset market, and initially in the tablet market as well. They are trailing in 2-in-1s. There is no question about that. I think they intentionally held off. They tend to tread lightly to see if there's a business case. And in this situation, Microsoft has it all coming together. They're Johnny-come-lately in handsets, and God knows they're playing catch-up in handsets. When you talk about 2-in-1s and hybrids, they've been refining that for a long time. It's now catching on very well, and they've got this OS now that has an ecosystem and a cross-platform appeal that's impressive. I think you nailed it, Marco, when you talked about iOS and Apple's walled garden, which, love it or hate it, is what it is. They want you to come to them for everything. They're very guarded about what they let in, what they approve as an app, and so therefore what you get with that is better, a more secure product technically, because it's less open by design. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and it's interesting to see, you know, Apple on the offensive a little bit, you know, or defensive, I guess, probably in this case with Cook spouting off this week, and it sort of speaks to, wow, maybe Microsoft's making an impact here. So interesting.
You know, we should probably wrap up soon because we're going long. But the thing that's been striking me lately is we had years where it kind of started with the netbook thing. Years where the PC was really racing to the bottom as fast as they could, and every company was, not all of their products, but virtually every company trying to make money in the PC space was building lots of crap. And at that time, as cheap as possible, let's try to just get PCs down to the lowest price where they work, regardless of experience, right? So that soured tons of people. Then you had the Windows 8 roll in and sour a bunch more people. And then you get to the point where CPU guys weren't really innovating, where you can go back all the way to Sandy Bridge now to today to Skylake, and single core performance is not all that much difference. And you throw all that together, and people didn't need PCs, people didn't like PCs, people didn't want new PCs because there was so much crap. But now it's kind of all flipped. So Skylake now has some new features that improve performance. Windows 10 is, in my opinion, pretty awesome. You have Microsoft now basically putting all other OEMs on notice, saying, if you're not going to make the premium devices, we will. And it seems like everybody's answering. You have lots of nice devices right now, from the XPS Dell line to the HP Spectres and tons of nice desktops. There's lots of really nice PC stuff out there right now. So couple that with Apple maybe not quite innovating and some saturation in the tablet space, and this whole PC is dead argument, we may not be having it in another year or two. We'll see. I don't think PCs are going to all of a sudden start selling and have a huge upswing. But if you have a market that can sustain upwards of 400 million units a year, it's not dead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, we got to wrap, but let's tease something real quick. I know Paul's got to play. He's got like a party to go to or something. He's got shots to do or something. But Marco, tell the folks what we're actually giving away this month at HotHardware with our good friends at CyberPower. It's pretty impressive, and you could win it if you join, if you hop in it, right?
Yeah, so I'll be super fast. It's one of the coolest PCs you will ever see, CyberPower Trinity.
I'm going to share it out when you talk to it.
Yeah, so show this thing. Show this absolutely crazy, amazing computer you can win. Literally, all you have to do is come to the site, participate in our discussions, like a couple of Facebook pages. This insane machine with Core i7 and Titan graphics could be yours for free very soon. Contest is ending soon. Look at that case. That thing is nuts. It's the coolest PC you've seen. Don't lie. There you go.
Yeah, CyberPower PC and Core i7 5820K, 6-core CPU, 3.3 gigahertz, 16 gig of RAM, GeForce GTX Titan X 12 gig graphics card, 2 terabyte hard drive, and a Samsung SSD Evo 850 Evo SSD. I mean, just killer setup, loaded for bear, and it could be yours. Stop by HotHardware.com. Jump in, like a couple of Facebook pages, no big deal. Make a few comments, get yourself known and visible on the site, and we'll be picking a lucky winner this month. And if you want to find us elsewhere around the web other than HotHardware.com, you can find us on Facebook.com/HotHardware, Twitter.com/HotHardware, YouTube.com/HotHardwareVids, and of course we're on Google+. We're everywhere. We're like the scourge of the internet, but geeky. And that about wraps for us. Make sure you thumb up and like this video and subscribe to us here as well on YouTube for more. Yeah, baby, there's Paul's thumb. For more 2.5 Geeks webcast goodness, reviews, and event coverage. Guys, anything else to say to our faithful viewers that we made slog through internet outages and everything today?
Yeah, I should probably apologize for the outage. I'm glad I came back so fast. And come by the site. We feature a handful of stories during the podcast, but we post way more than we get to talk about. There's tons of news, so definitely poke around the site and check out all the coverage that we have up.
Uncle Pauly.
Yes, what Marco said. Come by, comment. We'll comment back. Love to see you there.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend.